All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming. My name is Kent Griffin, product manager at PayPal, running some of our mobile libraries and mobile apps. So today we're going to cover what PayPal is doing in the mobile space, and especially how that relates to what you as developers might be able to do in terms of taking PayPal inside of your apps, inside of your mobile websites, and maybe creating some new ways that you can interact from your phone with PayPal. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to start with an overview of the PayPal landscape, the mobile landscape, and look at how PayPal fits into that. And then we're going to break this up and look at PayPal's mobile payment library, which we can use for a lot of native apps. We're going to look at a product that Osama unveiled a couple hours ago called PayPal's Mobile Express Checkout. This will be built for a lot of web apps or mobile websites that want to integrate PayPal as well. So let's start first with a show of hands. How many people here are actually building a mobile app or a mobile website right now? All right, so for those of you not looking, it's probably about half of you are doing something. How many people have purchased something with their phone over the last year? So almost everybody raised their hand, and I have a feeling that everyone who didn't is probably lying. Right? It's really easy to say that I bought a ringtone or I bought an app off the App Store or I've gone to the Amazon site and ordered something. There's a whole lot of mobile commerce going on. What's funny is I gave a similar talk like this maybe 3 years ago, and I got two people in the room who raised their hands saying that they had bought something with their mobile phone. One of them wasn't even from the United States. He was from Europe. He had bought a ringtone off of Jamster. It was called the Crazy Frog ringtone, for any of you who remember that craze from a while back. And the other person had bought some flowers off of 1-800-Flowers when they did some stuff a couple of years back. Now, maybe there were only two people because I could probably only get about 5 people to come and listen to me talk about mobile payments, whereas now there's a whole room full of people interested in trying to figure out how they can monetize apps and mobile websites. And that really shows here. Right? So if you look at how m-commerce is exploding, what you see is there's a lot of stuff going on with mobile apps and a lot of stuff going on with remote commerce. Right? So if you just look at mobile apps alone, you'll see that in this year, according to Gartner, there should be about $6.8 billion worth of money flowing through from the purchase of mobile applications. Right? That doesn't really count any of the separate ringtones and stuff like that might be sold. That's just from the apps on the app stores selling a whole bunch of things, typically at 99 cents to maybe $5. And it's growing a lot. If you look at how that's changing over the next 4 years, right, $29 billion is a huge number that should get everyone here excited because they're looking to build mobile apps and mobile sites. But now you can take that space that you just saw for mobile apps and add in the remote side. So eBay announced a while back that they're going to do over $1.5 billion in 2010 just from their app and physical goods. Amazon announced a couple months ago that they've done $1 billion over the last 12 months. Right? And so add those two together, and you've got over $2.5 billion in 1 year just from two companies on the physical goods space. And then you can add in all the people from those companies like Foot Locker and Best Buy and some of those other ones that have made their own apps. And there's a lot of money both on the app side and on the remote side. Just look at Japan. If any of you have either been to Japan or studied some of this, they now see 20% of their volume is coming from m-commerce. Right? We're not there yet in North America or Western Europe, but hopefully we will be, and this will be the start of something. And the apps and websites that you guys will be building will help us get there. One thing that's interesting is that a lot of this is now starting to move offline, right? So we see a lot of stuff coming from mobile apps. We see it coming from the traditional e-commerce moving to m-commerce. But you see these cases where you're not really sure where they fall. They get rid of the E and the M, as Osama put it. So these are things where you might be trying to sell merchandise within a game. So I'm inside someone's game, or I'm inside an app, and all of a sudden it's going to sell me a T-shirt, or it's going to sell me a coffee mug or something. There's cases for LBS, location-based services, as well as couponing, things where you might do your own sale, ways that you might do mobile ticketing. Right? All these cases that have no clear winner, no clear solution built out yet, things that are hopefully waiting for you guys to look at. Here's what my solution can be and how I can bring it to the market. And our goal is really just to be there to help you. So most of what we're going to spend today on is looking at how you can monetize your apps, your mobile websites, and how PayPal can help you do that. So when you typically think about monetizing apps, these are the ones that come to my mind. Hopefully it's also what comes to your guys' minds as well. How many people here who are working on their mobile apps or their mobile websites are looking at one of these models, right? Advertising, subscriptions, digital goods. Almost everyone, right? That's the breadth of things. I mean, where we see PayPal helping you is in pretty much everything but advertising. So in ways that you want to be able to take a subscription for your mobile site, maybe for your Android app, if you want to create an app that's pay-as-you-go or a freemium model where you download it from the market and it's free for the first level or it's free for the first month, all sorts of new models that we can help you, especially as we get into ways that you can start to build physical goods into your apps. We'll talk about cases where you can be able to take service fees off of payments, whole new business models that we're going to help you with. So where to start, right? Well, let's start with what the problem is. And the problem is typically that there's a whole bunch of barriers to mobile payments. You'll see this on the buyer side, and you'll see this on the developer side. So in terms of a buyer, when you think about it, as a consumer, and I'm going to go through and buy something on my phone, well, I want to make sure that I can pay how I want to pay. I want to make sure that I don't have to enter a whole lot of information, and I want to make sure that it's safe and that it's in a trusted environment. And this is where we see PayPal helping you. So PayPal supports a full wallet of choices, right? We're an account-based system used all over the place, so we can link your credit cards, your bank accounts, your stored balance. If you're in a foreign country, we can link your local instruments as well. One of the things that you saw demoed today is the ability for someone to stay logged in, right? So even if you didn't have that and you thought about what the experience might be for a buyer using PayPal, they have to enter their email address and password. That's already better than having to enter their shipping address, billing address, name, credit card details. But what's better is after they go through once on one app, they'll be able to save that information on PayPal, and the next time they go through it, a flow on someone else's app, they'll already be logged in, and we'll take a look at what an example of that might mean for you guys. And lastly, PayPal offers that recognized brand. So a consumer is going to feel a lot safer going into your app or into your mobile site when they see PayPal and they recognize the brand and they know that it's associated with their payments and their wallets. So same thing typically on the developer side. If you're a developer and you've been thinking about adding payments into your app, the things that come to my mind, payments are complex, right? It's a pain if you have to go and enter any sort of credit card fields and worry about trying to figure out the integration or PCI compliance or some of those rules. If you're looking at digital goods or physical goods, right, you might be thinking about carrier billing, but carrier billing is not always available. In the cases where it is, it comes with a price point, right? It's typically in the 30 to 50% price point that you have to pay. And not very many payment models are possible, right? You can usually do a payment for the sale of your application. Where PayPal can help you is we think with some of our libraries, we've made this a really quick integration for you. We'll walk through what it might look like, but typically we find it's a 10 to 15 minute integration if you already have your app up and running to just add PayPal into it. We've seen that adding PayPal into your sites can actually increase your sales, right? So why does that happen? It happens because you attract new buyers who weren't buying from your app or your site before, and they convert at a higher rate. So you've got more people coming, converting better. That increases your sales. And lastly, we can help enable physical goods, digital goods, subscriptions, a whole host of models that we'll walk through and give you ideas about the new business models that you can be adding into your apps. So we're going to start with native apps, looking at what our mobile payment library is, what a sample integration might look like. We have a bunch of tech playground sessions going on the other side of the building, so if you want more information or as we go through some of this at more of an overview level, you want some tech help, just hop over to the tech playground and they can help you out there. So I'm just going to run through a demo here and we'll show you what an experience for an app might be like. So I'm just going to compile a new app that I've created here. And all this app does is show a PayPal button. So you can imagine that this is your fantastic new iPhone application that you've built, right? It might be a new storefront. It might be a way to do local pickup items. Totally up to you. All you did is you stuck in a Pay with PayPal button, and we'll take care of the rest, right? You as a developer just have to stick that button in there, tell us how much you want to get paid, and then allow the consumer to be able to log in. So this is pointing to our sandbox environment. which we remind you of by a big red banner in case you actually, forget about that. We don't want you submitting your apps or going live with it pointing to the wrong environment. And what you see is that I'm logged in to our sandbox environment. I have my address, my bank account. As a developer or merchant, you don't need to worry about asking the user, do you want to pay with your bank account? Do you want to pay with your credit card? What shipping address do you want to go to? We'll take care of that. We'll show them all that UI. All you have to do is press pay. We'll process the payment and send them back to your app. The one thing that we didn't quite talk about is that as I went through this flow with my ever secure sandbox password, I can choose this checkbox so that I can actually stay logged in. We'll take a look at what this is going to mean in future transactions. I love it when our sandbox environment is fast. So the great thing about this is now I'm now logged in to the PayPal site. So I'll close down my app. It'll be coming from a totally separate app here compiled. As long as I'm on that device, it recognizes me, right? So my name of my sandbox account is test user. So it's saying, hi, test user, pay with PayPal. So all I have to do is hit that pay with PayPal button. I'll skip over a login screen, go right to this review page, be able to hit pay, and go right back into your application. So from a developer's perspective, that's fantastic, right? We've now taken this down to one screen. There was a button that said pay with PayPal. I hit it. PayPal showed me one screen, and then they're right back into my application. That's fantastic for conversion. If you're worried about making sure that your buyers pay you at the highest rates possible, that's our goal too, right? We're here to help you accomplish that. So we're going to take a look about what it takes to get there, but I first want to call attention to some of the new features that we've added over the last 6 months in the release that we just uploaded today. So if you had tried out some of our libraries in the past, you'll know that we first started out with one-time payments for just basic checkout type transactions, donations, P2P, hard goods. We were running on iOS and Android, and it always works with our basic account pricing at 3% plus 30 cents or our micropayments pricing at 5% plus 5 cents. But what's new is we've enabled a whole bunch of new business models with split and chain payments so that you can unlock these new business models. So we'll dig into these a little bit, but just to get you thinking, split and chain payments basically mean you can have a whole bunch of recipients. So if I want to be able to make an app that sends something to 2, 3, 4 different recipients, I can do that. If I want to make one that has one primary recipient and then people get paid behind the scenes as service providers, we can set that up too. And so it all runs through that one transaction. You don't have to set up these out-of-band processes for it. We've also streamlined the flow to shorten the checkout flow. You saw the new one there. It was just one page in most cases. And we've enabled pre-approval so that you can start to look at subscription models, ways that you can enter into agreements between your app or your company as a merchant and the buyer, so they can buy things from you in the future without even having to log into PayPal at all. So my goal here now is to show you exactly what it takes to integrate this. We're not going to get too deep into actually coding it, but I want to hopefully convince you that this really is a 10-minute integration, right? If you're having issues with it, like I said, we've got stuff going on in the tech playground, so stop on by. But here are the basic steps to getting our library integrated into your app. Right? You're going to want to be able to set up a test environment on Sandbox. You're going to initialize that library. You're just going to stick a Pay with PayPal button in there. You're going to add some payment information, and then you're going to wait for a response. So we'll be able to run through this pretty quickly of what it might look like. So first things first, if you're a developer, you'll go to our Sandbox. You'll download our package set up on x.com/MPL, MPL for Mobile Payments Library. You'll see it's got tech guides, it's got sample code, and it's got the library itself. And always remember that things here work off of our Sandbox accounts. So if you need to set up information on Sandbox, create some buyer and seller accounts, you can go to developer.paypal.com to do that. So really the first thing you're going to do as a coder, if you're using our library, is you're going to import the library, right? So this is just a bunch of import lines that you stick in there saying, I've added the library, here's the references for where the files are. And then you just initialize it. And you'll see that there are really just two important parameters. One is the environment. So the one I ran for you just now pointing to our Sandbox. You could point that to live when you're set with a live environment, or you could point it to none. And none is just a non-networked demo version that always returns the happy case of success. And then there's an app ID, right? The app ID just tells us who your app is. On Sandbox, everyone can share this same app ID I've got up here. When you submit your app to us, after you've built it, you upload it to x.com, we'll give you a live app ID that you can swap into your code and use for the live environment. All right, so you put that one line in there for initialize. You stick a PayPal button into your app, right? This code is almost self-explanatory. You're just going to stick a button in there. You're going to tell it which size of the button you want. I chose one here that's 294 by 43. And then you're going to tell us what to do when that button gets clicked. So in this case, you see in red that I said I want to call a function called simple payment. And the next step is going to be for me to write that function simple payment. But all it's doing is it's making an on-click function. So as soon as that button gets clicked, you tell us what should happen. Keep in mind as you're doing this, you can do this for a variety of types. You can do this for hard goods, services, personal payments. I mean, as you're thinking about your button sizes, you saw the version where we were able to add the person's name on top and tell them that they were logged in already. So here's that one function, right? This is the meat of the integration where you're going to tell us at PayPal how much you want to get paid, what currency should go in, and who are you, right? That's just basic payment information. If you want to get more advanced, you can. You can specify tax and shipping and ways to recalculate the tax based on someone's address. You can go in and see optional methods for setting a language, disabling shipping, a whole bunch of more advanced methods. But at a basic level, all you're doing is saying, this is my email address of my account, this is how much I want to get paid, and what currency I want to get paid in. So in this case, I'm sending $10 US to this example merchant1 at paypal.com. That's all you have to do on your part. The rest of it's up to PayPal. Right? We're going to load up our UI that you saw. We're going to take someone through, logging into their account, moving the money, running the risk checks, running the fraud checks, making sure that payment gets into your account. All you're doing is sitting there waiting for a response. Right? And so that's what the last step is, as it's worrying about the delegate functions and how are you going to handle those responses. So you'll see three basic types of responses we'll send back to you. We'll either tell you a payment was successful, a payment failed, or a payment was canceled. Right? And there's some key differences in there. If the payment was successful, you want to display a great message to the consumer saying, thanks for your payment, your order's on the way. If it failed, we'll give you a reason why. You can see an NS-string object in there for the iPhone case that you can dig into and see why it failed. Was it because of the buyer's account, or was it because of something I did in my integration, invalid parameter I passed in? Or you can find out that the buyer canceled it. So maybe the buyer got in the flow, he got to the one page he was looking and said, that's too much money, I don't want to pay that much. He canceled out. And that way you can adjust your messaging appropriately to what's going on in the situation. But those are the 5 steps you have to do, right? All you had to do was after you set up your accounts, you initialize our library, you stick a button on there, you tell us how much you want to get paid, and then you wait for a response. Once you've added those 4 or 5 steps, you bundle up your apps as either an APK file if you're on Android or an ad hoc build if you're on iPhone, and you send it to us at PayPal, upload it to x.com. We'll take a look, make sure what you're selling is legal for us to be working with you on. And as soon as that's done, within one business day, we'll send you back a live app ID so you can go in and swap in your new live app ID, switch your recipient to be your live recipient so that you're getting money mailed to your right account. So that's it for a simple integration. Hopefully you're starting to think, okay, that works, but I've got some other ideas floating around in my mind. How can PayPal help me with that? So a lot of what we've been adding recently is more around some of these advanced integrations to unlock some new business models. So let's take a look at what some of those options might be. The first is a pre-approval. Right? So a pre-approval is really just a billing agreement. So you can enter into a billing agreement with any consumer saying that consumer allows you to take money from my account allows me as a merchant to take money from the consumer's account whenever I want to. So when you do that, we'll load up a flow that looks just like the other one to review a payment, but you'll see a picture of it here. It's just a slightly different UI that says, I'm authorizing, in this case, Pizza Express, to take money out of my account. And I say, agree and pay. And now what that allows me to do as Pizza Express is that next time someone's paying for it, I don't actually have to send the user through a flow at all. I just need to call an API behind the scenes and capture the funds. So this works great for subscription models where I want to get paid on the first of every month for something. It can work great for some auto top-up scenarios where after the person's stored balance in your account goes below $5, you want to refresh it, you want to add some more money to it. Right? There's some great new use cases that come out of being able to enter into billing agreements with consumers directly. And it's a model we all know well from carriers. Right? If you think of what you do with carriers, especially in postpaid accounts, right, is you're basically have an agreement with them that they're going to bill this to you, and you're okay with that. So as long as you as a consumer authorize this, it's okay. And it's going to come with constraints that you agree to. So it's, if I was able to click onto that drop down, you'll see terms that show up for start dates and end dates, and you can be set up with max amounts. And as a consumer, I can always go into my PayPal account and change it. So if I'm worried that, I signed up for this subscription, but now I don't want it anymore, I can go into PayPal and I can cancel out any of that or change which funding sources I'm linked to. So the next set of features is around chained and parallel payments. So we saw a great example of this on stage earlier if you're watching the keynote with iConcession Stand, right? So they are someone who use chained payments. So it's a case where you think all the money is going as a consumer to one place, but behind the scenes there's a whole bunch of other recipients. So in the case of a stadium, I might be thinking all the money is going to the vendor, but in reality what's happening is the money is going to the vendor who's selling the hot dogs, but then they have to pay out the guy who's actually bringing you the hot dog, and they have to pay out the guys who made the app. Right? So this is a new case where you're going to be allowed to start to add these more advanced models into your apps and really create more of a service model. So that if you want to go to a local coffee shop with your app, instead of selling it to them for $5,000 an app, you can say, look, here's my app for free. I'm just going to take 10 cents off every transaction, and the consumer will never know about it. It'll just be a service fee that I'm tacking on, and I'll either add it or deduct it to the amount of what you're selling. Right, so great new models that we can help you enable into your apps. Now, if you were looking at that and you saw some code and you're still thinking, well, that still might be too complicated for me. I've got a great idea, but I don't want to go code it. We've got some great partners here today that can help you out. So I encourage you to go into, they both have some tech playground sessions. They both have some booths. Titanium is a product made by a company named Appcelerator, who is here. It's basically set up for anyone who is a web developer who can write JavaScript to allow you to enter your JavaScript. You see some of it here in their picture. And out of that JavaScript, it pumps out a native Objective-C iPhone app or a Java Android app, right? So you're coding in one environment, and it's going to help you create your native apps. And they've got some very easy ways for you to add this PayPal functionality into your app there, too. You might also be thinking, I have my e-commerce solution. I'm not really a developer. I'm more of a merchant. Magento has launched a great solution called Magento Mobile that allows you to take your standard e-commerce solution and turn that into an iPhone app with PayPal integrated for the payments. So if you just have your flat-out e-commerce solution and you don't want to dig into actually making your app on your own, both of these partners can really help you get started and get you on your way to making a great app. But what if you're not making an app, right? So what if you're someone who wants to make a mobile website, or you've made the best mobile site or the best website that's out there, and you're thinking about, I want to move that into the mobile space as well. So what we announced today is something called Mobile Express Checkout. So Mobile Express Checkout is based on our standard Express Checkout APIs that you've probably used on our website. Has anyone here integrated with the Express Checkout APIs online? All right, so there's probably about 25% of the people raise their hand, right? So it's an API-based integration that allows you to integrate from the web, where you redirect them to PayPal to log in, and then they'll go back to the PayPal or to your site at the end. You can do that exact same thing now, but by passing in one different parameter, we'll be able to make that a mobile flow. We've been testing this with some great merchants like Nike, Buy.com, and Foot Locker, and they've really helped us optimize the UI to look great on WebKit devices. So you'll see we're launching on iPhone and Android 2.0 devices. There's a picture right here. We'll go through an example as well of what that's going to mean for you guys as you're building out your mobile sites. There's a whole bunch of information about it up on our website if you want to start digging into it. x.com/mobile will get you all the information, both about Mobile Express Checkout as well as our libraries. Let's take a look at a quick demo. You'll notice I'll leave the flow up there as I set it up, but it's really set up as a redirect to the PayPal site with some APIs going on in between. So I had been shopping around on the Nike website earlier, and we'll start over on their homepage. Right, so Nike is one of our partners that's been testing this with us, and you can go in here and you can choose to shop for anything. So you can choose to shop for clothing. I had been shopping for some shorts, and you can see from the URL this all is live. So if it doesn't work, we'll just go back to the pictures, the pretty pictures on the screen. So I had been looking for some shorts here. This is all their mobile website that they've optimized the UI for an iPhone or for an Android device. And you'll see they did something really smart with this PayPal integration, right? They stuck that PayPal button up on the cart page. And what that means as a consumer is, one, I recognize the brand and I know this is going to be an easy checkout process for me. I'm not going to have to type in my credit card. So I'm more likely to click that button if I'm a PayPal customer than go into that checkout button. It also means that they don't have to ask me for my address. Right? There's no place that they're going to come in and say, okay, what's your PayPal address, or what's your shipping address that you want this sent to? They're going to be able to get that from PayPal. So I'll go ahead and say that I want to pay for my new running shorts with PayPal. They'll redirect to the PayPal site. You'll see I'm able to log in with either an email address or a phone number. So I'll type in my phone number. And as I mentioned, this is a live site, so I'm just going to move that off the screen while I type that in. Hopefully I didn't mistype because I couldn't actually see anything myself. We'll log the person into PayPal. You'll see in this case the payment is coming from my PayPal balance as well as part of it's from my bank account. There's my shipping address. Go ahead and say I want to pay for that. What we do now is we redirect back to the Nike site where they're able to say, okay, your payment's been completed. Verify all this amount. You see that they pulled in all my information that I had stored with PayPal. So now they don't actually have to ask me for that information. They can just submit that order on their own based on the information that they got back from PayPal. Right? So that'll go ahead and submit. So this is kind of what you saw as a generic version, though, right? I was on a shopping cart page. You put the Pay with PayPal button in there. They redirect back to the PayPal site for the person to log in and pay, and then they send you back to PayPal. Now, this is great for mobile websites. If you've already integrated Express Checkout and you're looking to say, okay, well, I don't have a mobile website, I want to do this in app, you can also do this in apps. We're working on a version coming out next week of a library that allows you to embed this inside of your iPhone and Android apps as well. And that way you can take advantage of that same ability to stay logged in. So if you've already logged in one place and you want to be able to take advantage of that on your own app, we can do that as well when you're coming from an app using Express Checkout as a web view inside of there. Just so you believe me, there's my order ID sent from Nike and the date. So what was great about that from a developer experience, right? Same APIs as online. So if you already integrated this and a quarter of you said you had, you've already seen these APIs, you've looked at these flows before, right? You call an API to set Express Checkout where you get this token back and then you redirect them to the PayPal website. The only thing you need to do different is in your integration, you add this phrase -mobile at the end of the command you send to PayPal, right? So instead of the command being _Express Checkout, it's _Express Checkout mobile. And then we know to give them that optimized UI that's really meant for their device. So we've walked through what it means for our libraries using native apps. We looked at what you can do for web apps. If you want a lot more information, there's a ton of great sessions going on in the Tech Playground. We just finished one on iOS apps. The guys from Appcelerator are showing Titanium after this session. A whole bunch of sessions coming up tomorrow on Android and ways that you can do pre-approvals and build some subscription models. So I encourage you guys, if you are interested in getting in touch with some of the code and really playing around with it, stop by there. There's a whole bunch of PayPal engineers set there to take your questions and help you out. With that, I think we've summarized this pretty well, right? Mobile is growing a lot. You've seen some of the numbers this morning, and they really are just staggering, right? The amount of growth we at PayPal have seen and the industry at large has seen is really compelling and a great reason for everyone here to get involved in the space if you aren't already. We think we've got some really easy solutions for you to start working with. We saw some that could be done in 10 minutes. We saw things for mobile apps. We saw things for the mobile website. I just encourage you to get started. x.com/mobile is where to start if you're looking for any documentation or guides. With that, we'll open it up for any questions that you guys might have. And they are walking around with mics too, so just raise your hand.
Yeah, I was just wondering about developing an iPhone native app. If we submit an app to you to get the appropriate app ID that's not a sandbox app ID, so we would send to you like our developer version with the sandbox ID, and then we get back the real one, and then we send that one to Apple, which has to go through Apple's approval process. Is that the kind of path we're talking?
Right. So yes, that is what it is. The way it works is, as a iPhone developer, you build what's called an ad hoc build, right? And so we've stuck our UDID for our devices up on the x.com. So as you go through and submit it, you'll see that UDID. You build it. You send us a zip file that contains your ad hoc build and provisioning profile. We'll load it up on a device here. Just make sure what you're selling it for is okay. Within 1 day, we'll send you back that live ID. You switch it around and say, okay, I'm now pointing to live, and I'm going to send this off to Apple to upload to the App Store. So our goal is really to make this a minimal process for you guys, right? We're not trying to cause a 2-week delay in your process. We just need to make sure that what you're selling is something that's legal and allowed for the countries that we're operating in. Yep.
Just out of curiosity, how much does this add to an app as far as the size? So on Android, we've done a lot of work to really make it as small as possible. I think it's about 150 to 200 KB. On iPhone, it's a little bit bigger right now. It might be closer to a meg. A lot of that is on some of the images. If you think about what we saw, right, there's different choices and buttons that you could use, and there were buttons for different text, right? Pay with PayPal, donate with PayPal. And what we didn't quite go over is that we support about 22 languages. So we've localized a lot of those buttons, a lot of those files into different languages. So we're looking over the next couple months to be able to bring that down on the iPhone to match where it is on the Android. But yeah, it's probably about 150 to 200 KB on Android and probably closer to a meg on iOS.
I was going to ask if there were options to skin those buttons at all. It doesn't sound like there probably is, or make it just a little bit less transparent. That especially with the web, so that when you go to PayPal, that it's maybe a little less transparent that you're leaving your site and then having to go back. Or
so is the question just about the buttons themselves, or the way to mask the redirect?
Maybe the button and then also the store area as well.
Yeah, so to be honest, we're pretty picky about it, since it's what we feel gives buyers that confidence. So we want to make sure that the buttons they see on your site are the same ones they see on eBay's site, that they see on the Starbucks app. So we're pretty picky about using the same buttons that we use everywhere. We try and come up with different sizes so that they'll work across apps. And especially now that we are offering this ability for people to stay logged in, we need to show them their name above that button, which really restricts it into the buttons that we're setting out, because you don't know their name to display above it. In terms of the redirect, it's kind of the difference between the two flows that we looked at, right? So on the native apps, everything's taken inside your application, so there is no real redirect, and it feels like a native element of your app. And the alternative is a web version where there is a redirect. We've started to roll out new features that allow you to customize that experience a bit more, so you are able to stick in your own name at the top. And we look forward to adding some more ways for you to customize that flow. But in order to make that integration as easy as possible and to build it on the Express Checkout platform, it's going to be set up as a redirect to the PayPal website. Our goal is just to minimize how much time they spend on the PayPal site, and then to allow you to start to customize that in ways that you want.
I was wondering if there is any specific reason why, that the application must specify if this redirect is meant for mobile environment or not. Why wouldn't PayPal detect it based on user agent?
Yeah, great question, and it's something that we will be able to do. It's just that as part of the beta testing process that we were using with a lot of our partners, the way to make sure that everyone wasn't exposed to this is to add in an extra parameter. And so right, for here at Innovate, as we're giving this out to all of the developers here, it's basically a way for you to join in that and be able to do it before it's generally done on behalf of all the other merchants.
Okay, so there is a plan to do this redirect seamlessly without changing the...
Right, yep. But assuming you guys all want to get started today, it's pretty easy for you guys to send us that extra parameter.
Hi. I had a question about this. In general, on mobile, the network connectivity is a little bit unreliable. So is there like a way to configure this PayPal payment so that it tries so many times and gives up or records the transaction and actually executes it when the connectivity is reestablished or something like that?
Great question. So within the library, there's no configuration you as a developer needs to do. We will do a bunch of stuff within our library to, if the session times out, get them to log in and try again. If the network connection drops out, to tell them that the network connection dropped out, and that way we can just communicate with you via those delegate methods that either the payment succeeded or that it failed. If it failed because of a network connection, we'll tell you that so that you can message to the consumer and make sure that you're using the network in your own app. You're always going to run into some corner cases in mobile of what happens, especially with a cloud-based service, if that connection isn't there at any time. The way we solve that within the app is really to make sure that you can find out about that transaction in a lot of ways. So not only are we going to call that success method, but we'll also send you server-side notifications that you can pick up. So if you're worried that the instant that pay button was pressed, and it got configured on the, sent on the server, but it didn't quite make it back down to the app yet. Granted, I've never seen that happen, but I think about these cases all the time where you're in the tunnel or you're going into the train station and it does happen. That's why we build in these kind of redundant models where you can find out from the server as well. So as soon as the transaction completes server side, you can pass in the name of a server you want us to notify, and we'll send a notification to that server with any of the custom data that you've built out on your side so that you can match up that custom data to a transaction, and you can find out server side as well as client side. Any other
I got a quick question about pre-approved payments on the MPL as opposed to the express checkout.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I was watching the slides and it wasn't 100% clear whether you were actually allowing us to offer pre-approved payments through the MPL. And just as a corollary to that, on the chain payments side, if we're doing chain payments, can we do chain payments with pre-approval and then change the person who the chain payment is going to? In the final transaction, I mean.
Okay. So first question about pre-approvals. Yes, you can do pre-approvals with our library. It's built on top of adaptive payments. So if you've gone to any of the sessions on adaptive payments pre-approvals, there's also a whole tech playground session set up for pre-approvals on devices. Basically, all you're going to do is you're going to create through an API a way for you to say, here is my billing agreement information. We're going to send you back a token. Now, typically with that token on the web, you would redirect to the PayPal website for the user to log in. You're going to take that same token here, and you're going to pass that into our library, and we load up a login screen, then a screen like this that tells the user you're entering into this billing agreement, this pre-approved agreement with a particular merchant. They authorize it. We give you back that token, and now you can call the Pay call, the Pay API call with any of that information as long as you're passing in that same pre-approval token, which means that you can specify the recipient as well. So if you wanted to change the recipient and have the money go somewhere else, it's all part of the standard pay call. So I've gotten the red sign saying that we're down to a minute, but if there's one last question that anyone is dying to ask publicly, we can take it.
This is just on security. If you have the option to allow the user to stay logged in, if the handset gets stolen, do you have a way on the website to disable the token that the handset's using?
Yes, absolutely. So you can come to the PayPal site, you go to your profile, and you'll see that you've got devices attached to it, and then you'll just remove that device and
and it will no longer work. So nothing, when we talk about staying logged in, nothing is stored client side. It's all server side. So we're not actually storing your PayPal password or credentials on the phone. It's all based off of tokens and stuff that's stored server side. You can always either call into our support centers, go to the PayPal website, and disable that or reconfigure it if you need to. And just in case you might forget, as soon as you sign up for that or attach a device, we'll send you an email saying that, hey, you've added this, and that way you can go back and you can search or type in PayPal into Gmail and see that this is where to go if I ever do lose my device. And that's it. So thank you guys for coming. I hope you are able to visit a lot of the other sessions, especially the Tech Playground sessions and the hackathon going on. And we look forward to helping you build out your apps and your sites and get some new exciting cases out there.